Warm greetings to all our fellow Catholics. It is a great joy to welcome you back to this space of faith and reflection. May your day be blessed and filled with the peace of Christ. As we embark on this journey together, we encourage you to stay with us until the end of this message, as it holds a crucial call for our times. The world is undergoing profound transformations, both in the physical realm and in the spiritual and moral spheres. The increasing occurrence of natural disasters, armed conflicts, and a deepening crisis of faith are signs that cannot be ignored. Many people feel an inner urgency to awaken before it is too late. The Virgin Mary, through her many apparitions throughout history, has repeatedly delivered messages of warning, pleading with humanity to change its course. She offers hope in the midst of turmoil, but the question remains: are we listening? Are we prepared for the changes she has foreseen? The rapid acceleration of global changes has brought both physical and moral challenges that are impossible to overlook. Earthquakes, hurricanes, floods, and wars have grown more frequent, shaking the very foundation of human security. At the same time, a moral and spiritual crisis is sweeping across the world, threatening to erase all that is good and holy. In the face of such chaos, the messages of the Virgin Mary shine as a beacon of guidance. Throughout history, she has called humanity to return to God through prayer, penance, and conversion, warning of the consequences of ignoring these divine appeals. The time for transformation is now, before the weight of indifference leads to irreversible consequences. Her messages do not seek to instill fear, but to awaken hearts with the love of a mother. Just as a mother warns her children of impending danger, Mary calls upon all people to open their eyes and return to God. She reminds us that even as darkness grows, there is always hope for those who choose the path of repentance and faith. From Fatima to Lourdes, from Akita to other sacred sites, the Virgin Mary has appeared with powerful messages of warning and guidance. These divine interventions are not coincidences, but urgent calls to humanity in times of crisis. Each of these apparitions has emphasized the importance of repentance, the necessity of faith, and the urgency of prayer. Yet, despite these repeated calls, the world continues to turn a deaf ear, refusing to heed the warnings of heaven. The message remains clear: humanity must return to God. The road to salvation is not without its challenges, but it is the only way to avert disaster. The signs of the times are evident: wars rage on, hunger spreads, family values deteriorate, and faith in God is met with increasing indifference. Though Mary's words often carry a sense of urgency, they are always accompanied by hope. No matter how far a soul has strayed, the way back to God remains open through sincere prayer, penance, and a change of heart. The Virgin Mary does not appear to condemn, but to warn with love. The greatest danger is not external calamities, but the internal crisis of the soul. Humanity has distanced itself from God, trivialized sin, abandoned sacred traditions, and allowed spiritual coldness to dominate hearts. This is the root of the crisis unfolding before our eyes. While the world grapples with physical threats, the deeper problem is a spiritual one. The rejection of God's commandments has led to moral decay, where sin is no longer recognized as a grave offense, but is instead normalized and ignored. This detachment from the divine is reflected in the breakdown of families, the disregard for human life, and the increasing secularism that dismisses the importance of faith and prayer. Mary warns that spiritual indifference is far more dangerous than any physical disaster. It leads to a moral abyss, making it difficult to return to the path of righteousness. She calls upon all people to embrace the truth, to welcome the light of divine grace, and to act before it is too late. Only through genuine conversion and prayer can this crisis be overcome. The urgency of this moment cannot be overstated. Now is the time to awaken spiritually and commit to a life of prayer and penance. The Virgin Mary continually urges people to pray, especially the Holy Rosary, which serves as a powerful defense against evil and a means of drawing closer to God. Prayer is not just a habit but a shield, and the Rosary is among the most potent spiritual weapons we possess. True conversion is more than just a shift in mindset. It requires turning away from sin and embracing God's will wholeheartedly. The world is moving toward a time of great moral reckoning, and only through sincere repentance and prayer can people prepare for what lies ahead. The trials of the present, whether physical, emotional, or spiritual, are not coincidences but signs that humanity is in need of purification. God permits these events not to punish, but to call people back to Him. The increasing natural disasters, conflicts, and moral corruption are not just random occurrences. They are warnings, opportunities for repentance before the final hour arrives. Mary's messages make it clear that these events serve as divine invitations, urging people to wake up, change their ways, and cleanse their souls. God is calling His children to a deeper relationship with Him, one built on prayer, humility, and repentance. Ignoring these warnings will only lead to greater suffering. Pain and suffering, though difficult to endure, play a crucial role in spiritual purification. It is often in moments of hardship that hearts become receptive to grace. The trials facing the world today are part of this purifying process. Rather than perceiving suffering as a curse, it should be seen as an opportunity to grow closer to God, to trust in His divine plan, and to deepen one's faith. The Virgin Mary has spoken of the redemptive value of suffering, encouraging people to offer their struggles to God. Just as Christ suffered for the salvation of humanity, those who unite their own hardships with His sacrifice participate in the work of redemption. Through this offering, both personal healing and the renewal of the world become possible. One of the greatest dangers of today's world is spiritual blindness. Many fail to see the gravity of the crisis unfolding and continue relying on human solutions for problems that are fundamentally spiritual in nature. The Virgin Mary warns that ignoring God's call will lead to devastating consequences. Without spiritual awakening, humanity will continue on a path of destruction. No human effort alone can resolve the world's spiritual crisis. The only solution lies in returning to God through prayer, repentance, and conversion. The Virgin Mary has urged people to consecrate themselves to her Immaculate Heart, not as a symbolic act, but as a means of spiritual protection. Through consecration, individuals entrust themselves to her guidance, asking for her intercession to lead them closer to God. Mary's Immaculate Heart is a refuge in these troubled times. It serves as a shield against both physical and spiritual dangers. She has promised that through consecration, countless souls will be saved, and peace will eventually be restored to the world. Despite the trials humanity faces, Mary assures that her Immaculate Heart will ultimately triumph. Yet, this victory requires participation. It is not enough to acknowledge her messages. People must respond by living out their faith. The triumph of Mary's Immaculate Heart will bring peace, but it demands sacrifice and dedication from those willing to follow her lead. Though the victory is certain, each person must decide whether they will be part of it. The world stands at a crossroads, and the time to act is now. Humanity cannot afford to delay its response any longer. The final opportunity for conversion is slipping away. The events unfolding in the world today signal the arrival of a period of great tribulation. However, those who listen to Mary's call, embracing prayer, repentance, and consecration, will find refuge, peace, and salvation. The Virgin Mary's message is urgent. The time for spiritual awakening has arrived. The challenges ahead may be great, but those who turn to her Immaculate Heart will experience the peace and victory promised by a life devoted to God. Now is the moment to choose. The triumph of Mary's Immaculate Heart is inevitable, but it is up to each person to decide whether they will take part in it. Let us respond to this call before it is too late. Thank you for being with us on this journey. Your faith and engagement make this mission meaningful. Until we meet again, may you find strength and inspiration in the light of Christ and the love of the Blessed Virgin Mary.